Well, I have to tell you, the tagline, "We must face it to fix it," applies just as well to diversity and inclusion as it does to wellness. I think it's very difficult for a lot of us to really um, appreciate the level of our own biases. And part of that is because we're really not trained in our culture to be introspective, to be in silence, to listen to what we're thinking. The other thing is we have a high value of accepting others. And so there may be a level at which we accept, but then there may be a level at which we still hold certain groups of people in low regard. And so it really begins with the individual doing her own work, her own inventory of who she is. But it also applies to teams and to organizations. How do you inventory? The great thing about teams and organizations is that you can look at the results. You can look at the makeup of the team. You can look at who's in leadership and go, wow, we may have something institutionalized here, so that only men or white people or heterosexuals find themselves being elevated in a particular team or a particular company. So we must face it to fix it. And so this idea of, I just want to say this one thing about face it to fix it while we're on the subject. I'm going to do a whole video on we must face it to fix it. But while we're on the subject of diversity and inclusion, I just want to say this, that we're facing our conditioning. We're facing what we have been taught. That really is not at core who we are. And so a lot of times when I say that, people say, well, Yolanda, then what are we if we're not our thoughts? And I think I'm not even going to answer that, because I think it's something that we need to do the work to get to. But I do know this, that if we look deeply at our conditioning, that we can change it. And that is really the thrust of why I do work in diversity and inclusion, that we can begin to expand our own minds. And I think it begins again with the individuals, and then we can begin to expand the level of acceptance that we have on teams, in communities, and in organizations. So thank you for tuning in.